Hello everyone, it's Religious Fanboy here again, and today we are discussing the Christian lessons and themes that are paralleled in episode 7 of the anime Buddy Daddies. And the lesson from this episode is it is only by living in the spirit and not according to our flesh that we are able to overcome guilt and resist temptations and despair. And the Bible verse for today is Romans chapter 8 verse 5, which says, "For those who live according to the flesh set their minds on the things of the flesh, but those who live according to the Spirit sets their mind on the things of the Spirit." The illustration from this episode is the sister of a woman that Kazuki loved, giving him encouragement and advice that allows him to overcome his guilt from her sister's death, as well as giving him the strength to overcome burnout and return home to Ray and Miri. The first talking point of this sermon is that by acting only in pursuit of pleasing the flesh leads to us only being able to think according to the flesh. And we see this primarily in episode 7 through Kazuki's actions and thought process in the form of his guilt, leading to him already being in despair, which leads to the responsibilities involved in his friendship with Ray, as well as taking care of Miri that once brought him joy, to cause him even greater despair and burnout, which leads to him leaving the house and gambling. And we also see in the character of Herod from the Christmas story how his desire to remain in power enabled him through giving him reasons to justify his heinous actions. Not only the killing of family members in order to prevent him from being usurped by one of his descendants, but also in his response to the hearing of the coming Messiah being Jesus, where he responds by having Roman soldiers kill all of the Jewish boys at the ages of 3 and younger. And though in our lives it is much more similar to Kazuki's situation, we too can find ourselves, when we are already in despair from guilt and shame, that it makes it easier for us to say yes to destructive behaviors that give us instant gratification, but in the end goal only will lead to more shame and guilt and self-destruction. But God calls us to often do the hard and difficult things that, though they are difficult, they are necessary for us to grow in our relationship with God, as well as show God's love to those around us. And this transitions us to the second talking point, which is the flesh is not instinctually concerned with the needs of the Spirit. We are told that we can imply and infer that when this passage talks about the flesh, it is discussing our heart's desires. We are even told in other passages of the Bible that's where temptations come from. They come from the, at times, wicked desires of ourselves and from our heart. And this is why, like with eating sweets, that when we should be eating vegetables, that we have to force ourselves to think according to the Spirit in order to have our needs met, rather than just doing whatever we want to do. Because though the sugary food may taste better than the broccoli, in the large scope of things, the broccoli is what is better for you, even though it might taste like water in some sometimes feels like you are eating a tree. But as long as we think according to the flesh, and as long as we remain in the habit of saying yes to the desires of our worldly hearts, it will be even harder for us to call upon the willpower needed to choose the things of the Spirit rather than the things of our flesh. And that transitions us to my third and final talking point, which is by acting according to the Spirit, we are enabled to develop the habit of thinking the way the Spirit thinks. And we see this through Kazuki's interaction with the sister of the woman that Kazuki loved and has been mourning and still grieving the loss of, where she talks to Kazuki about all the good work that he's been able to do in taking care of Miri, and through this she encourages him that by him taking on this responsibility, it is making him a different and better person. And because of this, the burden that he takes on through, and that we see of sending her money every month as a way of grieving and trying to redeem himself in the eyes of the woman he loved, family, is no longer necessary, and that because of how he treats Miri and his interactions with her and Rei, that Kazuki can be reassured in knowing that he has repented of the mistakes he had made. And like Kazuki, by choosing to think and act according to the Spirit, we are not only given a clearer vision of what God is calling us to do, but we are able to more clearly see the grace and love God has for us, and that was made possible through the sacrifice that God made by sending his Son to the world so that whoever may believe in him shall have eternal life. And with that being said, may God be with you. Merry Christmas, and see you next time. Bye.